From LALATE News headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Mornings LALATE.
It's a big morning of Mornings LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022 as three major checks have landed. A $6,500 fourth stimulus check has landed. It's law. How do you get it, the check? I'll go over it in this recording. Plus, a $15,000 to $80,000 fourth stimulus check has landed as well. Have you gotten it? It's coming up as well. And then an MSC check that pays out an average of $2,000 a month over 12 months, $24,000 has landed. Have you become a member? In this recording, we'll go over why it's important to become a member to get these incredible checks across the board. Plus, in today's fourth stimulus check update of 2022, live on air from the shores of Santa Monica, California, we meet two new cast members. They are the Yodels. They love to yodel. You don't listen. YDLs. They're loving their yodeling. And is that yodeling going to set them up for financial despair? Are they passing up big checks by yodeling about something that isn't happening yet, doesn't have those checks across the board? As we go into a big Easter weekend, we're ready with the bunnies. Or the wrong type of bunny. Are we getting stimulated with our bunnies? Well, it's one of those weekends. It's Easter weekend. And as we go into the big money at issue with the Build Back Better Act, we're going to cover that. And then we'll be telling what's going on with the SS300 Plus. We'll be going over to six stimulus. We'll go over those big checks that you can get. And then you're going to see something new on this recording. Something you've never seen before from me across the land. For one time and one time only on Mornings LA, I'm going to go in really thick with a lot of tough love because a lot of you have been yodeling too much in recent days. Talking about stimulus packages that don't exist, talking about stimulus payments that don't exist, talking about elements that don't exist, and passing up checks that are available right today. We'll go over the importance of not yodeling when getting money, and that if you yodel, you could send yourself up for a big fall down. And it's not just here, it's also offline. You're going to see why economists now believe that a lot of American workers have been yodeling themselves into a potential abyss and why the potential looming recession could be worse. Of all those details and more on a special broadcast live from Santa Monica, California for Easter weekend. All the bunnies are ready. Maybe ready in the wrong way. But Mornings LA gets underway for big day live on air for April 16, 2022. It's Mornings. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a beautiful day across the land and happy Easter to you. Hope you're having a beautiful Easter weekend and hope you are one with the bunny. The appropriate bunny. But as we go into a big day, we got three major checks that have landed. And those incredible checks are huge. Have you become a member? I hope you have. We're going to go over the importance of becoming a member, but these four stimulus checks have landed. And the importance of becoming a member is that those checks are available for you right today, even though it's a weekend. If you're watching this in the United States, then you can still get these check applications in across the board. No time or place to yodel, which is you don't listen, YDL. We'll go over why yodeling is not just here, but also offline as well. It's very important across the board. And you're going to see something new on this recording you've never seen before. And it all starts right now for this big April 16th, 2022. Here's what's at issue. Is that over the last year, we have watched as the Build Back Better Act sat in the Congress. It's a fourth stimulus recall. And as it sat, we wanted money. We wanted a lot of money. And the fourth stimulus recall has three clauses and three add-ons. Those three clauses and three add-ons ostensibly all are checks that you have to do something to get, whether we're talking about paid leave. No one knows you're sick or have to stay home due to illness or sickness to get paid leave. You have to say something. I want some paid leave. What if you want that money for the first time home purchase, like Lynn Glenn, who wants that $25,000? You have to say, I want that money. They're not going to give you $25,000 just, in case you ever buy a home. No, you have to actually ask for the money. That's the way Build Back Better Act works. Started in 2021 and is at the edge of the finish line now in 2022. But what's important to understand is that this is 2022. This is not 2020. And Even in 2020's earliest days, the first days of this channel, I was showing viewers how to get things, to do things, to hop to it, as we say would for Easter, and to hop to it and get those sums of money. Along the way, somewhere around second or third stimulus, some people thought that everything could be done without doing anything. And what are we dealing with today? What we're dealing with today is a great, great, great environment. It's a wonderful environment in which we had waited for fourth stimulus to pay out money. It wasn't. And then yours truly found not one, but two fourth stimulus checks that became law. How? The President of the United States can make things law by executive action. And he took one of the checks out of the Build Back Better Act. We call this Check A weatherizing grant check that was in there in the second cluster, took it out and made it a law. Then he took the second check out, $15,000 to $80,000, made it law by executive action. Now let's hold up for a second. Let's do a reality check. The first, second, and third stimulus packages never had a stimulus check in the pure definition of the word stimulus check. That was $80,000. It never existed. They were $600 and $1,400 and $1,300, $1,200. So to hear that you can get an $80,000 stimulus check is astronomical. Great news. It's law. And these three checks are law today. What's important to understand is what you and I do as a community. As soon as that first check became law, $6,500, on March 31st, I immediately announced it to the viewership of this channel on prime time on Amy's LA. You cannot miss tonight's show as well. I go in really thick on this as well. As soon as I found out about this fourth stimulus check on March 31st, I featured in the membership newsletter that night. As soon as the $15,000 to $80,000 check became law on March 4th, I featured in the membership newsletter that night. And guess what I said? Purple Hawk, you got to pounce. What is a Purple Hawk? Created by me in early 2021, in the end of the first year of this channel. I said when money's available, you have to pounce and get it right away. You can't wait. If you wait, the money runs out. Where are we right now? Well, those two checks are still paying out. Good. Have you become a member? You need to become a member right today. Go to the top of the chat, below into the video, Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Sign up for membership. Then get that newsletter Monday through Friday, because the newsletter features how to get those checks, A and B. Now, when we look at that check C, it's even better. What's important to understand is that check A and B are four stimulus checks. They're law. That's number one. Number two, check C is an MSC check. And while a lot of you understand that Build Back Better Act, the fourth stimulus recon bill that's currently sitting in the Senate, proposed a fourth stimulus MSC checks as well, this check C is not proposed. It's law. It's paying out today. And while Build Back Better Act proposed $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for 6 months, which is $7,000, that proposal is diminutive in regards to the comparison to Check C, $24,000. Now let's go over where we are right now. 3 checks, $6,500, $15,000, $80,000, and $24,000. If you're a homeowner or you're a renter, you get one or all these checks. And they're astronomical. Look at these payouts of these checks. No check in this list is less than $6,500. Homeowner, renter. If you're homeless, I'm sorry, but generally the Build Back Better Act had nothing in there for homeless people. So for renters and homeowners, that was always Build Back Better Act's approach, and these checks are even bigger than even that. Now, here's what you need to know. Is that as soon as it became a law, did you become a member? You did become a member. If you haven't become a member, go right to the chat and become a member right today. Then as soon as you became a member, what were you ready to do? You're ready to pounce, hopefully, to get those checks. But along the way, this is what started to happen with just a few of you. Normally, the Mornings LALATE show is a members-only show. And for this recording only, I open it up to subscribers as well, because I wanted to see a little bit of the yodeling potentially coming to live chat. Maybe we don't see it at all. What is yodeling? Yodeling is a person that does two different things, and neither thing should happen. You see yodeling happening here. You also see yodeling offline. Yodeling is a person who doesn't find happiness in the status quo and wants something else that is not the status quo, that is the potential future, but it's just a potential. What's going on? Let's use the example of the MSC. The third stimulus MSC checks are paid out $24,000, $2,000 a month over 12 months. Viewers are getting from these third stimulus checks right now. They're huge. $24,000 over 12 months. Many viewers have gotten upwards of $45,000. A lot of viewers have gotten $150,000. They've been doing it for a long time on this channel. But recently, some of the yodelers have said, I really just want the fourth stimulus MSC checks. I want to wait for that. The key word in that sentence is wait. They're passing up checks. They're leaving checks A, B, and C on the table and saying, I'm just going to wait around for the Build Back Better Act. I got to tell you how bad that type of yodeling is. That type of yodeling is basically saying there's checks on the table, you're going to leave them around and not take them because you think that something's better on the horizon. Number one, it's wrong. It's actually a wrong analysis because check C is a lot more than any Build Back Better Act proposed. Build Back Better Act proposed $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for 6 months. That's $7,000. That's $7,000 versus $24,000. That's a lot less money, number one. Number two, Build Back Better Act is a bill. It's not a law. It has drafts, and the drafts can get changed. Last night I had a big exchange with one viewer in the live chat that said, but I was promised those MSC checks. Folks, that's one of the expressions I really detest. The viewer really wanted to use that verb, I was promised, as much as she could. And I really went after it. I said, listen, who promised you? And she named the senators. I said, you're right. They did promise them to you. But Congress, to pass a bill in Congress requires more than 6 senators. That doesn't pass a bill. There's 100 plus legislators to pass a bill. And if you don't have 100 plus promising it to you, who cares what 6 promised to you? So for that individual who's waiting up to hope for an MSC under fourth stimulus recon, which I believe is going to still happen. I want to make that very clear. I do believe it's going to happen. Is passing up checks that are available right now for something in the future. I said, you don't have enough promises. You don't have everyone that votes promising to you. So why are you leaving check C on the table? Next, it's important to understand that when people look at checks, they sometimes modify in their mind how much it pays out. Some viewers have yodeled the following things in the recent days. They were to give us, under Build Back Better Act, $24,000 of MSC checks. Hold up. 100% untrue. It's 100% false. No one in Congress ever said they're going to give you 12 months of $2,000 MSC checks and fourth stimulus recon. No one ever said that. If you want to convince yourself about that narrative, that's fine, but that was never the reality. They said $2,000 a month, $1,000 thereafter. Now let's go over why we're talking about these MSCs so early in this recording. Because there is a yodeling going on out there, and that yodeling is an obsession with one provision, one potential provision of an entire stimulus package, and forgetting everything else. Let's go back into that Build Back Better Act. When you look at that Build Back Better Act, there are 3 classes of checks and 3 potential add-ons. And as a bill, it can get modified. The numbers can go up, the numbers can go down. They can remove things, they can add things in there. And it's not a rational, logical approach to say, you know what? In looking at third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh stimulus, I'm going to forego all these provisions. I'm going to ignore every single one of them. I don't care what cluster number 1 is. I don't care what cluster number 2 is. I don't care what cluster number 3 is. I'm only going to focus on one item, and that one item I'm only going to focus on is this one. Who does that? That is pure yodeling. That is really bad yodeling, where you see this and you don't see anything else. And now it's fine to advocate for that money if you got all the other money, but it's not fine to pass up sums of money for yodeling for one item. Don't sit around and yodel about an MSC indefinitely, about $2,000 for 12 months, because there never was $24,000 of MSCs in the fourth stimulus recon. And if you want to yodel about $7,000, that's fine. But understand, if you're yodeling about $7,000, what have you done? You have left on the table these massive checks. And these massive checks are available today. Now, let's go over what's important to understand, is that in talking about yodeling, there's another version of yodeling which is growing across the board. And that is the person who you don't listen. You don't listen. Yodeling, YDL, also refers to individuals who simply do not listen. And way they most likely don't listen in recent days has been the video starts to play. In fact, it hasn't even started to play sometimes. And they immediately have a question about something covered in the video. That's fine. That is fine. I mean, the response to that is just let the video play and then they get the question answered. But what's not fine is when the person then, in their yodeling, not listening, is inserting an obsession with something else in a horizon out there that is not the reality of the moment and is passing up these checks. It's great if someone had 1,000 questions about check A, B, and C. But what people are not asking about is check A, B, and C sometimes in their yodeling. They're talking about something other than that. For example, they're saying, as to check A, when does the $6,500 automatically land in my bank account? It doesn't automatically land in your bank account. You gotta go get it. You gotta pounce to get it. When does the $15,000 to $80,000 automatically land in my bank account? Just because I'm alive and I have beautiful hair, when does it land in my bank account because I have beautiful hair? It's not landing in your bank account because you have beautiful hair. You have to ask for it. Do you think the federal government sends out $80,000 checks to every U.S. citizen just because they're alive? Of course you don't think that. Then about the MSC checks, $24,000. They're available everywhere. Those checks, they're not landing automatically unless you ask for them. It's important to understand that stimulus started with first stimulus package, PPP, PUA, UI, EIDL, and EIDL grant. That's 5 items right there. Which of them did you have the opportunity to just sit around and watch for it to land in your bank account? None of them. PPP was a very difficult process to get that check, get that money. You had to really go through a lot of education to learn that. PUA, UI, EIDL, EIDL grant. It required learning and then pouncing. And when you got the money, it was a lot of it. It wasn't a measly $600. It wasn't a measly $1,200. If you want measly checks, you can sit back and hope for measly checks in the future. But if you want $80,000 checks, $40,000 of checks, you got to pounce and get those big checks today. Now, let's go into the next part of yodeling, which is growing across the board. People who see one check and think that there's going to be another version of the check. They look at check A, B, and C, and they say, well, when are they going to do check A for another way? They're not. Check A is a one-time in a generation opportunity. This check right now. There is not going to be another version of A at another date. Check B. When are they going to do another version of that check A, B for this type of person this way? There is no version of that at another date, nor is check C another version at a later date. Now let's understand how you and I pounce as Purple Hawks. You and I pounce as Purple Hawks by getting every check that's available when it's available. My dedication to you is finding these checks when they become a law. And let's make this very clear, because I haven't said it in about 2 weeks. Check A got no news coverage in the United States. No news coverage except here, because it was not announced majorly by the United States government or by the White House. Same thing with Check B. No news coverage anywhere in the United States. So if you want to have Josh Hawley brief you on Check B, he's not going to do it. He doesn't even know it exists. If you want Tucker Carlson to give you a rundown on Check C, he's not going to cover it. It's just not going to happen. So check A, B, and C. What my job is to find you checks when they're law, and as soon as they're law, for you to pounce. Let's understand what's going on. Since 2021, we've waited for Forced Stimulus Recon to become a law. You wanted checks. You wanted lots of checks. You wanted big checks. So I searched high and low to find you checks, and I found them. Boy, did I find them royally, big time. Check A and Check B. Immediately told you the importance of becoming a member to get those checks and pouncing and getting those checks. And some of you have done an incredible job, but along the way, some of you said, yeah, but when are they going to do things like 2020? Last time I checked, this is 2022. So don't ask that question. This is 2022. They're not doing things like 2020 anymore, whatever that even means, because in 2020, you had to pounce in 2020 to get PUA, UI, PPP, EIDL, EIDL grant. Number 2, don't ask if there is another version of something at a later date. The version you see right today is a great opportunity for huge checks. Number 3, don't default to a narrative in which it involves you talking about yourself doing nothing. If your narrative is about you doing yourself nothing, I'm not here for it. And here's where the tough love is coming in really tough this morning. Lots of tough love. If your question is about you doing nothing and you simply literally doing nothing, I don't want it. Get lost with that narrative. We don't do this on the channel. The narrative of when are they direct depositing it to people who don't have to do anything and watch and eat a donut? Yeah, that's donut talk. We don't do that. That's another version of yodeling. But we don't see that so much. The yodeling that you're seeing is people who simply want things to be done in a different way. Folks, these checks are available. They don't want these checks. They want smaller checks at a later date. Folks, that's very bad yodeling. And guess where that yodeling is happening? It's happening across the U.S. economy today. Economists globally, domestically, and even I've seen it myself, have seen a new upswing where people say, I'm going to pass up something for right now for hope that something later on comes around the horizon. Let me give you an example of what I saw personally in the last 7 days. One person I spoke to for a job that usually pays $25 an hour wanted $75 an hour. The person was told no. And then the person was asked, have you ever been paid that $75 an hour? The person said no. The person was asked, are you currently employed? No. What are you doing? I'm waiting for someone to actually pay me $75 an hour. So during this duration, this person is sitting around passing up the going rate of what their hourly rate is to hope that someone eventually pays them $75 an hour. If that sounds ridiculous, understand it's a big narrative across the United States. Labor currently in labor shortage circles shows that a lot of people are staying home unemployed, not collecting unemployment because they're not going to get it, and are passing up salaries, hoping that there's a salary for a demand that they want that's out there. And no one's paying those salary demands. That is going to implode for them because eventually this U.S. economy will go into recession and the job won't be there. How does this apply when we're talking in the case of Fort Simmons Recon? Same thing. You're passing up a check A, B, or C potentially. And I'm using this as the worst case scenario. Most viewers have gotten check A and B and C. But I'm talking about the worst case scenario where the yodeling is happening. They pass up a check A, B, and C because they're hoping for something that they think may happen in the future. Well, guess what? You pass up a very, very easy check to get from check A. Now, let me go over some of the yodeling I've seen as well. Check A. How do you get it? $6,500 check is available for Fort Simmons. So Joe Biden made it a law. Now, if anyone says, when are they voting in Congress? They're not listening. The President of the United States can do things by executive action. And he made check A executive action law. Fort Simmons check by taking out of cluster number 2. It's a $6,500 to $12,000 check. It's called the Home Weatherizing Grant Check. Single individual, $75,000 less, you can get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you can get it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, rural benefits, you can get it. Did you just hear me? The beneficiaries can get it? Yes, you can get it. Final eligibility is you own a home. How do you get the check? You want to become a member. Get that incredible newsletter delivered via YouTube alerts Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go right in there. And then in the membership newsletter, then there is a link to get that application funded. Look for that check A in the membership newsletter, then pounce. You're going to be routed to the national website. Then you're going to click the link, go to the state website, and then you pounce, get that application on file. That is check A. Now, check B you can get as well. $15,000 to $80,000 stimulus check. Let that sit in for a second. How many stimulus checks have you gotten there? 80,000. Probably very few or none at all. Viewers have gotten these checks, $66,000 to $80,000. The viewers who have gotten these checks have been the viewers who have always been Purple Hawks and True Spirit. They pounce when a check becomes law. What's the income eligibility? $75,000 less, single individual, you can get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you can get it. And if you're on benefits like Social Security, veterans benefits, you can get as well. Do you have to own a home? Yes. Now, let's say you don't own, but you rent. Get ready for check C. Homeowners get check A, homeowners get check B, and homeowners can get check C. Renters can get check C. What is check C? Check C is an MSC check. And check C is the result of viewers getting these checks. So let's understand, the vast majority of viewers have listened. In fact, this case, they actually created the MSC check. Viewers have been getting these checks for rent, utilities, and mortgages since early 2021 on this channel. Here's Lorraine, she was at 105, then she grew to 120. Here's Mark. He was at 35,000, then he got 50,000, then he got 100,000, then he got check B last week. He's at 166,000. You don't think you can get these sums of money? Let's look at the big sums of money that viewers have gotten. These include people on SSI and SSDI. These include seniors. These include people on benefits. Let's look at the utility numbers. Let's look at the combo numbers. Wow, these are astronomical. If you say things like, I'm a senior, I don't know how to do this. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You know how to call your daughter on the phone? Yeah, you do. You know how to call information? Yeah, you do. You know how to get these things because there's no application for Check C. You have the ability to do it. You absolutely have the ability to do it. Why would you not do it when these big checks are available? Because these are viewers just like you have gotten these big checks. I used to have them say, post your success story in the live chat to inspire other people. I'm trying to inspire you in this video as well. Now, in the second half of this video, we're going to go over more about the details of how to get these big checks and why it's important not to yodel. In the case of yodeling, it is infectious, big problem, and I'm stomping it today. This is the only time you're going to see a video like this. Yodeling is infectious, where you're thinking about something that's not happening yet, where you're changing the narrative of the future, like saying Congress promised you $35,000 of MSC checks. That's pure yodeling. You're in the shower, you need to turn off the water in the shower because you're not hearing the reality of the situation. It's like showing up from Easter dressed like this. You show up to Easter dressing like this. You didn't get the memo, did you? It's not that type of bunnies for Easter. In the second half of this video, I'm going to jump in the live chat because it's a special live broadcast for Mornings LALATE today. I'll be interacting with you. If you have questions, jump them in the live chat. Do not be afraid to jump and ask your questions. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. But first, here's a little bit about the members community page. They're ready to answer your questions as well. See you back in 60 seconds as Mornings LALATE continues live on air.
If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.lalate.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on Mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE.
And it's a big morning. Mornings LA for April 16th, 2022. We're doing a special live broadcast, very different for this Easter weekend, where we're trying to deal with people who are yodeling, who are basically not listening. You do not listen. YDL, yodeling. And they're not listening to the substance of the video. Moreoverly, what more troubling is that they're passing up checks. They look at check A, they look at check B, they look at check C, and they say, you know what? I'm going to pass it up. I'm not going to take it. I'm going to wait for something in the future. It equates to the situation we're seeing across the U.S. economy where people say, you know what? I'm going to wait for a labor rate of $75 an hour, even though that no one in the U.S. economy ever pays that type of labor rate for my profession, and hope that someone pays it. And until then, I'll be unemployed. and not pay my bills and potentially be evicted and lose my car. Why does this not work? Yeah, it just looks sort of obvious why it doesn't work. But we're going to go into the live chat right now. I want to see some of the questions that people have about the stimulus packages, because guess what? It's important for you to understand everything. And it's also for us as a family to come together and understand why you must pounce when checks are live. Now let's understand. A $6,500 check became law on March 31st, 2022. It is a fourth stimulus check. It was in the Build Back Better Act. The president took it out and made it a law. And you have to pounce and get it. And you qualify for it. You open the membership newsletter, you go right in there, and it has the link to apply. It'll send you to the national website. Then you click the state, and you pounce, and you get that check. In some states, it's actually more than $6,500. It's up to $12,000. Then, check B. The president made it a law March 4th. It's been a law for over a month. Viewers have gotten $66,000 to $80,000. Do you want $66,000? Of course you do. Of course you want to get these big checks. This one's even easier. You go in that membership newsletter, go down the link, down to the section of the newsletter where it talks about check B, and you click the link. It'll go into the national website, then choose your state on the map, and then you apply. Then if you're a renter or a homeowner, you can get check C. Incredible. This is rent, utilities, mortgages, this is more. And with that, let's go into the live chat for a big, beautiful Mornings LALATE starting right now. The toast is toasting, the butter is buttering, the coffee is brewing. And I want to see some of your questions for this big, bold, beautiful Easter day. Let's see some of the questions across the board. And I saw some during the commercial break. They're great. So April asked, is forced stimulus law now? So this is where I can understand it could be confusing to some new viewers. Fourth stimulus refers to both the forced stimulus that the president does and the forced stimulus that the Congress does. Part of forced stimulus is law that Joe Biden did because he does not need Congress. And what part of forced stimulus that Joe Biden did is law? Let's answer that question right now. It is check A and B. Check A is forced stimulus. It is law. It was supposed to be in Build Back Better Act, and the president took it out. It is law. Check B is forced stimulus. It is also now law. So great question by April. So what else of forced stimulus is not law? The part of forced stimulus that is not law is the remainder of Build Back Better Act. You remember Cluster 3, Cluster 2, Cluster 1, and all those add-ons. Those parts of Build Back Better Act are not yet law. So to recap, the part that the president has done by executive action is law. The part that Congress needs to have done by Congress is not yet law. That's a very, very great question. And that is the benefits of asking great questions, because you learn from a great question like that. Now, I'm not going to say that every question is going to be great this morning. And if it's not great, I'm not going to be too tough on anyone. But let me answer some of the other questions across the board. So Clifford actually had a really good question. It says, what if you called every place and you've been told that you don't qualify because you're disabled? So that's very interesting. First, if you look at the first half of Clifford's sentence, what if you called every place and it says you don't qualify? Let's just go over that part of the sentence before we get to the second part of the sentence. So if you called the 6 places for rent, utility, or mortgage assistance, the City Hall, City Housing Authority, County Hall, County Housing Authority, State Hall, State Housing Authority, and they say you don't qualify, and each of them says you don't qualify for the same reason, then there may be something wrong that you're saying in the telephone conversation. Because the only reason you would not qualify is 1, you make too much money, or 2, they're out of money, which is generally not the case. Now, let's go over the second part of Clifford's sentence. Because you're disabled. Now, this is where it gets interesting. If they say you don't qualify because you're disabled, that is a big red flag. Not qualifying is a financial question. You don't qualify because you pay too much money or rent, or because you're not on the lease, or because you're not behind on the bills, which is generally not the case. You generally don't have to be behind on the bills. Or because we're, as a state, out of money. It's generally a numbers question. So don't qualify is generally a numbers question. Why don't you qualify? Because of a numbers question. You don't qualify because you're disabled. Oh boy, that's big red flag. That is big red flag. If those places said that to you and you think based upon watching the video that you would otherwise qualify for the money had you not been disabled because of the numbers, because of the way the numbers run, you're behind on the rent, you have a lease, you would otherwise qualify, but you're disabled. I would recommend you immediately contact the local advocacy group of your city for disabled people, because that sounds like a major red flag. Something's going wrong there that doesn't even sound lawful. But let's also understand that if you are a member, which Clifford is on, if you're a member, you would also rely on the 5 or 6 nonprofits. The 5 or 6 nonprofits also pick up money when your state or city or county are out of money. So that is a big backup. But that's a very interesting question. And that is a question I would not anticipate across the board. So great question for Clifford. Let me jump on the live channel and answer some more of the other questions across the board. So Gail says, is the check that you're talking about for assurance for rent of $2,000 one in the same that Biden has? I don't know if I understand that question. So when we're talking about the $2,000, let's recap. Viewers have been getting this third stimulus since early 2021. And you've seen the graphic. They're getting $45,000 on average, many viewers over $150,000. But in the last 2 months, viewers had changed it, because I would usually say get 3 to 4 months of rent. And then they got 6 months. Then they got 10 months. Then they're getting 12 months. Then they're getting 2 years. Viewers suddenly realized that the payors would like to pay them 1 year or more of checks. And it happened over and over and over again. And that is why it suddenly became very obvious that this was the very easy check of a annualized basis. Viewers were getting offered 12 months of checks. And what was the average payout? $2,000. So suddenly viewers who would normally get 4 months of checks at, let's say, $4,000, were suddenly getting 12 months of checks. Some viewers are getting 2 years of checks on an automatic reoccurring basis. So when the viewer's name was Gail asks, is this the same check that Biden is talking about? Yeah, so Biden is basically in third stimulus, giving you money for rent and utilities. And that third stimulus still has money available. And so is this the same money that Biden talked about? Yes, he wanted to give you massive sums of money. And no one would have thought now a year later that money is still available. So that is one and the same. Great question across the board. Let me jump in the live chat and see some of the other questions. Someone talking about coconut bunny cake. I knew that was going to happen. Cindy, the LALATE alert, I don't get them. I'm signed up for it. I only get the video. Cindy, not a really complete sentence, but let me go over what Cindy's referring to. Cindy's referring to the alert system. So let's go over the alert system, because I get that question all the time. Cindy's a member, so I want to give that backdrop so we understand as a family. So Cindy's asking a question about the alerts and also alerts for videos. There are 3 things out there: subscriber, YouTube member, and the LALATE alert. First, subscriber. You want to subscribe to this channel. Go to the front of the channel and hit that subscribe button. There's a bell in the front of this channel that you hit it. It either says all notifications or personalized notifications. You want to hit the bell that says all. That is the subscriber bell. You subscribe, it's free. You hit the subscribe button, you're a subscriber. Now, everyone that's in the live chat right now is a subscriber, because the settings for the live chat is a subscriber of a certain duration. That is why you see people in the live chat that have a hawk behind their name, they're a member, and people who don't, who are non-members, those are subscribers. All right, let's go to the next step. Members. You understand how to become a member. You go to the top of the chat, pin comment. Become a Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcino VIP. That is a member of the channel. Next, the alert system. There's 2 different alert systems. There's the YouTube alert system and the LALATE alert system. Every single time when I mention about becoming a member, I mention the YouTube alert 1,000 times. Let me tell you why I mentioned the YouTube alerts. Here are the YouTube alerts. You want to become a member, get that newsletter delivered Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via the YouTube alert system. YouTube alerts, what do they look like? YouTube alerts are written by me and sent out via YouTube to members of this channel. It'll be sent to you however you have your YouTube alerts set up. So for example, let's say you have your YouTube alerts set up to send to your email address. It'll say something like, new member post by LALATE sent to you by youtube.com. So you actually receive an email sent to you via youtube.com, and it'll say new LALATE member alert. Now, if you have member alerts to send to your phone, you'll get a pop-up on your phone that says, here is a new alert. People have alerts sent different places, sometimes via email, sometimes via phone, sometimes both. Next, you'll get an alert when a new video goes out or a new video is going live, like this video. But that is because I wrote that alert to go in the YouTube alerts. One of the alerts I write every night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday, is the newsletter alert. It's written in words, and it actually says in the first line, LALATE newsletter. How do you recognize this one? Very simple. It's the one that arrives at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Now, you can look 1 minute before, 1 minute after, but look at the YouTube alert you're receiving at exactly that time. Again, that's 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, which is 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which is 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. You'll look at it, and it'll say in the first line, LALATE newsletter. Then I'll have a graphic, an image that says newsletter, LALATE newsletter, and it has a guy with a surfboard with the word newsletter over it. So that's simple across the board. Let's go over the LALATE alerts. The LALATE alerts are sent to you via LALATE. They're different because guess what? Those LALATE alerts are sent via LALATE.com. They're not sent via YouTube. So if you want the newsletter, you need to have that YouTube membership signed up. Great question across the board. Let me answer some more questions for viewers right today. Look at the running time. We're doing great. Bob, is that you or is that computer generated? Part of me is computer generated. Thank you, Bob, for your great question. When are we getting the fourth stimulus check, says Norma. Okay, so Norma's question is a very, very typical question for which we're referring to yodeling. YDL. And I'm saying this very nice to in the case of Norma right now. When are we getting a fourth stimulus check? If I was on the live chat, you know exactly what I would write. We already have. When are we getting a fourth stimulus check? We already have. Viewers have already gotten these checks. They've been getting these checks for over a month. We're now into mid to late April. They've been getting these checks for a month and a half. Have you gotten the check? No, I didn't get the check. Now the totality of the message from Norma was, when are we getting the fourth stimulus checks? These checks we're getting right now. Do you just sit back and wait for it to land? No, you have to pounce. These checks, A and B, are law. They're law. When are we getting them? We already have. And if you haven't got them, you can get them today. You can get them tomorrow. You can get them the day after them. You become a member. Go to the top of the channel, pin comment, and get that check right today. Now, what about the remainder of the checks in the bill that's in Congress? We're separating from the president's fourth stimulus and the Congress's fourth stimulus. When are those checks? Don't know. We don't have a date. I think it's likely to go to a vote by the end of this month. That's what a lot of insiders believe. But we don't know. But in answering the congressional side of the equation, you know what I'm going to say. Do not talk about what day they're voting on the Build Back Better bill. You know why? Because that's 100% the wrong focus. This is where I'm going to go in tough with a lot of tough love. Anyone who asks what day are they voting on the Build Back Better bill, you are setting yourself up for financial despair. You're setting yourself up for financial calamity, or whatever dramatic word you can use. Why? Because that is a future event that can change, that can get modified, that can get delayed. You don't know. And if you are passing up check A, B, and C for that future event, you are setting yourself up for major, major problems. So this is just like that example I used earlier in the video where the guy said, I know the going rate for my job is $25 an hour, but I want $75 an hour. No one will pay it, and he's staying home waiting for someone to never pay his salary rate. That is like looking at these checks and saying, you know what? Nah, it's too much work to raise my finger and pick up the phone and call. I don't want to call anyone. I just want to wait for when checks come from Build Back Better Act. Do not do that. And that is pure yodeling at its very core. YDL. When is forced stimulus going to become law? It has. Forced stimulus checks have already become law by 2 executive actions that 2 checks, A and B, have gone out. The remainder of Build Back Better Act will become a law thereafter, but we don't know when, and you shouldn't be focusing on any date. We're not a calendar Colleen, and we're not a calendar Cod. Let me jump back in the live chat and ask some more of the questions across the board. I went sushi. When is the sushi coming? That's hysterical. I only wear lobster shorts. Is there a sushi shortage? There is a sushi shortage. And there is Emily. Please subscribe. It's truly worth it. Thank you, Emily. Let me go back into early part of the chat and see if I missed some of the questions there as well. Fred, what about the $2,000 and $1,000 for 6 months? Okay, so this is what we're talking about. I can only do so much. And so I'm doing these recordings for today, this recording, and the Evenings LA tonight. You'll see the Evenings LA recording is a lot of tough love. It's very typical Evenings LA. Fred, earlier in this live chat, subscriber but not a member, said, when are they doing the $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter? You can answer the question as well. Well, that is dependent on a lot of things. First, we have a bill that needs to be finished, and it's not finished. Then when it's finished, they got to add it in there. Then they have to have a vote. Then they have to have enough votes. Notice how many things in the equation they got to do. Now, let's make this very clear. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, because every time I say something like that, when I analyze the situation, someone says, that means it sounds like you think that's not going to happen. No, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying it's a lot of events to happen, and things can get modified. By the time the things get modified, it may not look like how you hope it to look. The thing I do like about Fred's comment is he did have the right amount. He did have $2,000 the first month, $1,000 after. So he did have the right amount. I've had a lot of problems with people in the last few days who simply make up wrong amounts. Now, here again is why I'm trying to really curb the yodeling. To curb the yodeling, which is YDL, you don't listen, is that viewers are trying to avoid focusing and grabbing checks that are available right now. These checks that are available right now, that are huge, massive checks, and in avoiding those checks, including an MSC check that is $24,000, a lot more than the $7,000 forced stimulus check proposed under the Build Back Better Act. These are $24,000. Many viewers getting $45,000. They're yodeling about a future event. Let me yodel about a future event, and let me forgo the existing event. I think it's totally fine if you've got to check A and B or C or one of them right now, and then you've got to say, okay, I've got to check A and B and C. Let me ask when that future check is available. But it was over a month ago where I was saying to viewers, where I saw that type of question from Fred, when are we getting that MSC check of the forced stimulus recon? I said, have you gotten check A, B, and C? There was always a delay. There was always a delay in the answer. And I'm like, I don't hear you. Have you got to check A, B, or C? I don't qualify. And I just laugh every time I hear that line, because I know that's an excuse. It's an excuse line. It's a lazy line. It's basically, I'm lazy. I'm not referring to this viewer. I'm just talking about prior viewers. It's a lazy excuse line. What do you mean you don't qualify? Well, I'm old. I'm not good with computers. Check C doesn't require a computer, it requires a telephone. What other excuse do you have? Well, I'm trying these excuses really badly, LA. Let me come up with another excuse. Yeah, you're just going for excuses. That's fine. I mean, if you don't want check A, B, and C, you can simply forgo the checks. But if you have economic problems, financial problems in the month of April, month of May, because you passed up a check A, B, or C, then guess what? You're going to have problems. You're going to have big problems. I've done this before. I've done this for 2 years. This is why this channel is a success story, because I'm tough with viewers when I have to be tough. And today's one of those days where I'm being tough. When is another example of when I had to be tough? When The EIDL loans were being offered to viewers on the first week of this channel of $200,000. And I said, well, if you're over $25,000 of a loan, you have to be collateralized, which means that if you default and you don't pay your loan, they'll take your items, they'll take your belongings. And viewers said, oh, I don't want that. I only want $20,000. And I said, well, are you sure you're going to do that? And you can always give back the loan if you don't need it all. No, I'll do that. 2 months later, they needed more money. They didn't think it through. They left $200,000 on the table. 2 months later, they needed the $200,000. Guess what? They couldn't get it. So this is why when there's money available, you want to grab my money. Just like that guy that doesn't want to take a going rate of $45 an hour, wants to hold out for $75 an hour, and is staying home and doesn't have money to pay for bills. He's not alone. It's very, very common. And I got to tell you, it's on the low end, it's on the high end. The U.S. economy is going into 2 years of recession. And when it goes into 2 years of recession, guess what's going to happen? People who lived in a bubble-like environment are going to get burst. In my notes, I want to show you something. Oh, my God. These are my notes for every recording. Can you see that? These are my notes for every recording. Now, I don't expect you to know all those notes, but I expect you to know more than the title of the video. If you only know the title of the video and you're not watching a 1 hour video and you're clicking off after 4 minutes because you're not watching after the commercial break where I explain how you can check A and B and C, you're hitting yourself on the foot. I got these checks to get you. I found the checks. I'm going over the checks and showing them in every video how for you to get those checks. If you want to sit back and say, you know what, I'll just wait for the promises because they promised me to give you those checks at a later date, that's fine. You can do that. But I know you're going to get in financial despair. And I know on the high end, it's going to go from everything from you to the most rich of rich people. In New York, there's a major real estate firm that had a quote last week. I'm not going to say the name because I think I don't want to get in trouble. But the real estate firm said, when asked, are your clients buying homes in New York City, Manhattan, with the mortgage rate at 5%, it's out of control. The mortgage rate is going higher every single day. And the average price of a 4-bedroom apartment in New York is $6 million. What was the quote? The quote was, of course they're buying homes. All our buyers buy homes with cash. Excuse me? That is a true bubble-like statement. The real estate broker in the quote is basically saying that there is an indefinite, limitless, massive sea of buyers out there that have $6 million of cash to buy four-bedroom apartments in New York. There isn't. There is not a limitless group of 6 million cash buyers for apartments in New York. And that is a true bubble-like environment. That real estate broker is eventually going to feel a bust. It's going to bust in her face because eventually what's going to happen, she's going to not have buyers, and then her sellers won't be able to sell the home. The sellers will lose the home in foreclosure or default because suddenly they banked on an environment where everything looks perfect, that the future all looks perfect, that the future looks exactly like you predicted it like. Just like that viewer that passed up the $200,000 EIDL loan thinking that COVID would be over by April 2020. It wasn't over. So it's important to get the checks when they're available across the board. Let me jump back in the live chat one more time. And if you have any other questions, we're going over a special live broadcast of Mornings LA. We've never done this before. I want to go in a little bit tough with a little bit of tough love this morning. Let me see if there's any other questions across the board. Oh, that's a great question. So Robert has a question. If the president can pull certain parts out of the bill, why can't he pull out the $2,000 and send it out to all Americans that qualify? So that is a great question. Okay, so Robert's question is, if the president took out of cluster number 2, the $6,500 weatherizing grant check, and took out check B out of the remainder of the Build Back Better bill, why can't he take other checks out and send them out as law? So Robert's really listening. That's a well-informed, very up-to-date, great viewer. If the president's taking check A and B out of the Build Back Better Act, why can't he do the same for the $2,000 a month? There's a lot of different ways I can answer the question. One of the ways I want to answer the question is the easier way, which is sometimes people just don't do the right thing. the easiest way to answer Robert's question is SS300. SS300, Joe actually wrote this in his presidential platform that he's going to swap cola for inflation. This is not Joe relying on Congress. This is not Joe's campaign promise. This is actually Joe president, as president, saying, I'm going to do this. And he hasn't even swapped cola for inflation. So for Robert's question, why doesn't the president take out the other provisions and send out those checks? Why hasn't he done the SS300, which is exactly what he actually put in writing and still published at joebiden.com? This is not even him, and this is not even looking at Congress. Why is he doing this? Is him and himself. Why is he doing that? I don't have the answer. Now let me give you a more difficult explanation. Why hasn't he done it yet? I'm going to give you the good and the bad. The good is, in the last 7 days, we've seen this president do a lot of stuff. He has done 3 things with executive action for student loan debt in 5 days. He forgave the student loan debt for individuals who were defrauded by the university. He extended the deadline, and then he took the defaulted student loan debt and made them in good standing. He did that all in the last 5 days. Then in the 4 weeks before that, he took check A and B out. So he's doing a lot of things on the last few days. Perhaps, this is the good part of the answer, perhaps he's understanding that he needs to do a lot of stuff himself because Congress is stalled up. Now, the harder part of the equation is maybe he doesn't think that's a priority. Maybe he doesn't think that checks for anyone is a priority. Do I think that's a likelihood? I think it's a likelihood. Why? Because when he talked about student loan debt forgiveness, he said, I don't want to forgive student loan debts for everyone because a lot of these people now have, six-figure paying jobs. And why should I be forgiving their student loan debts? So that was sort of a notion that some people may be overcompensated by his actions. So takeaway is there's always an explanation for it. But I really appreciate Robert's question because that shows that he is really on top of the details. There's Chef Roberto. Here is, let me see if there's other questions. Clifford's had a great question, which is, can you please tell me who to contact if I've been disqualified because I'm disabled? That is a great question, Clifford. I mean, that's sort of beyond the scope of this channel, but I would contact the ACLU in your area. There are certain disabilities advocacy groups in your local jurisdiction. So I would basically Google your town or county and look for disabled advocates and look it up. Make sure that these are organizations that said no because you're disabled, and that otherwise you think in your mind, you've watched the videos, you think otherwise you qualify because of whatever the numbers run at issue line up. That's a great question. And this is the scope of why a live chat is beneficial. Let me jump back in the live chat. Patricia, sometimes the chats break up. Don't know what that means. So Mary Jane, are stimulus supposed to be deposited? What happened? Okay. So what I ask you to do is my favor going forward after today for April 16, 2022, because I'm not going to make this type of recording anymore, this sort of tough love type of recording, because it's sort of hard. It's, it is a tough recording to make, is that if you see a question in the live chats going forward, like Mary Jane's, which is, when is the direct deposit happening? I haven't got to the direct deposit. When's it happening? Respond to the viewer and tell them what you know is the answer. Say, hey, you got to pounce to get the check. Listen to LALATE. He will explain. You're not listening. Why do you yell? You're not listening. I understand the viewer comes in late in the chat and says, I came in late. Then say, hey, watch the next video. I'll explain in the next video or replay the video. But I certainly explained in this video how to get the 4 stimulus checks. And here's a viewer saying, when is a direct deposit happening? Absolutely 100% not listening. Is it direct depositing? No, it's not direct depositing. You have to do something to get it. What do we have to do? It's covered in the video. Why is this different than 2020? Because it's 2022. It's a different year. And it's not a $1,600 measly check. It's $80,000 checks. They're massive checks. Help me. and help them. Because ultimately, a lot of these people don't wish anything bad. They don't wish anything negative. They just want the answer. And the answer sometimes is brewed in a past, a 2020 past, where things were done differently. Things are done this way now. And what's important in making today's recording, the reason why I made today's recording, is because I've seen sort of an upsurge where people just want to repeat things over and over and over. And they want to repeat something that's ultimately going to hurt them. And what's going to hurt them is looking to the future and not dealing with the status quo. The status quo is that there's big checks available right today, so stop yodeling. The status is that big checks are available right today. Stop yodeling. Grab those big checks. Grab them right today. Once you grab one of those checks, then you can go forward. Don't think you can't, because I have made this recording for over a year and a half. Again, here are the success stories. I have probably gotten on this channel, on average, the viewership of this channel, $25 million of check C's. Check C's, I've probably gotten about $25 million. Here are the rent numbers. Here are the utility numbers. Here are more of the rent numbers, the combo numbers. Here are more combo numbers. These numbers are not measly sums of money. You can get them today. Join me next on Noontime LALATE. Then we have a Afternoons LALATE, and then we have a brand new Evenings LALATE today. Hope you have a beautiful Easter. You know, it's the Easter weekend where everything is about the bunny. You know, sometimes it's always about the bunny, but you have to hope you have the right bunny for Easter. So with that, I wish everyone a beautiful Easter, and help people when you see their comments. And when you listen to the video, help yourself. Make sure you listen to the video. Turn down the shower head. Turn down the hot water. Take the soap out of the ears. Listen. And become a member right tonight, because this is where people are getting big sums of money today. Become a member. The link's at the top of the chat. Pin comment. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Become a member right now. Then get that newsletter Monday through Friday via the YouTube alert system. Get that check A, B, and C. And when new checks become law, I'll feature them in this recording. Later today, we'll be featuring more about that 6th stimulus. We'll be featuring more about SS300. We'll be featuring more about 5th stimulus and that student loan debt forgiveness. We're just getting started on a big day. Stay informed and stay focused. Have a beautiful day, and see me next on Noontime. Across the board, so much to happen, so much to know, and so much to pounce. Hop to it and get these big sums of money. Get every penny you're deserving, every penny you are owed, and stay with LA for more.